What could have led to 16,000 missing people in Alaska since 1988? Could it just be the rugged terrain, or is something more supernatural at play? Today, we test the believability of the Alaska Triangle.
Welcome to Believing the Bizarre,
where we dive into the unknown and the unusual
and tell you whether or not we find it believable.
That is right. It's Tuesday. Literally, it's
Tuesday.
Normally we say that, and it's not true. Not that we're being facetious, but we just know when it comes out. But today, because I'm in Miami this week,
yeah,
we're recording it early, which means crunch time.
Yeah, I'm going to the dentist on Thursday.
Ugh.
But it's a literal crunch time for my teeth.
You've gotten to know this dentist.
I hate this dentist
so
much.
Do you hate the dentist, or do you hate what the dentist represents?
No, I hate the whole industry and this dentist.
So you don't like them as a person?
No, I hope they hear this and they realize that I'm talking about them.
Personally, or because of what they do?
Personally and because of what they do. Okay. There's no good faith here.
So this is an interesting topic. It was voted in via Patreon. I know we literally said that last week, but it's true. So how much do you know about the Alaska Triangle? Anything?
It's in Alaska. That's about it.
You're not wrong.
Woo!
I actually looked up the quote from Antarctica that episode, because I remember you said Antarctica is just a bigger Alaska. So technically, Alaska is just a smaller Antarctica.
I still stand by that. Yeah, because they both have their warm periods, and they both melt. And then they're both beautiful.
Does Antarctica have a warm period?
Does indeed.
Like, what's warm there? Like 30?
I think it's still pretty cold, but maybe like 50s.
Oh, 50s in Antarctica?
Yeah.
You got penguins wearing tank tops, sunglasses?
Maybe not 50s.
Okay. But, okay, so this is obviously tied into that just because of that comment. But this is also kind of like the 411 and the missing people, right? Because we're talking about people being gone, people kind of up and disappearing. I have a lot of missing person cases. I'm not going to lie. There is a true crime feel to this episode today.
Okay, should we bust out the true crime marimbas?
Roombas?
Marimbas.
What is that?
Marimba, the marimbas.
If you say it again, I still won't.
They're true crime instruments, not specifically made for true crime, but they've become associated with true crime.
Internet? Like, I don't know.
Under this whole thing, I'm going to play marimbas.
So it's a sound.
It's an instrument.
Can we ride Roombas?
Marimba with an M.
But can we ride Roombas with the marimba music
I don't
playing?
think either of us could ride a Roomba. We could try though,
I
guess.
Right there. Also, obviously, this is tied to the Lake Michigan Triangle because we're talking about another triangle. Basically,
another triangle.
We're just dodging the big
dancing
topics.
around the big Bermuda Triangle.
I know. You all know about the Bermuda Triangle. Listen, seriously, what can I tell you about the Bermuda Triangle that you don't already know?
I know it all.
Is it real? That's the only thing, is that we don't know if it's real or not. And nobody knows until we cover it on an episode.
There's another triangle in, oh God, Bridgeway, I think it's called.
I don't know what that is.
In like Massachusetts, there's a triangle.
The Boston Triangle.
It's that one's really interesting.
Gillette Stadium.
Yes, it's so spooky. How do they always win?
It's funny because somebody was talking about the Bermuda Triangle, and they're like, is it like allowed if I like film it? And someone's like, yeah, it's just gonna be a lot of water.
No, it's not allowed.
But let's get into this topic, the Alaska Triangle. So, like we said, similar to the famous Bermuda Triangle and the lesser discussed Michigan Lake Triangle, the Alaska Triangle is an area that has a vast history of missing people, odd occurrences, and a lot of explanations. There's a lot of missing persons stories in this one, and then a bunch of theories that we can dive into. This feels very Dyatlov Pass to me in a certain way. It's not as narrative. That had a really good narrative quality to it, where this is more like, some of the articles I found, I'm paraphrasing, and some of them I'm going to read word for word because they do it such in a journalistic way. Like, so-and-so left at 7:00.
Oh,
then she went to so-and-so's house at 8. And then, mysteriously and unknowingly, she went here. And then, nobody heard from her again. But also, I do want to say this because, you know, at heart, there's like that little bit of realism in me. Not that the paranormal is not real, but, you know, gotta keep it real. Alaska is known for its icy mountain peaks, desolate tundra, sprawling forest. So
big ass moose.
Big ass moose. That's a moose. You have to come into this understanding that you're not walking out to a Miami resort here. You're walking out to
I'm gonna beat
tundra.
you up when you get back from Miami. I swear to God.
Please don't, because I'm going to be sunburned and tan and gorgeous. But it is interesting that there are so many search and rescue missions each year in Alaska that end up coming completely empty.
That is unusual. That is strange.
So where is the triangle? And by where, I mean, what are the points? Is it isosceles? Is it equilateral? Southeast? Is it scalene? I don't know. What?
I said, is it southeast?
Oh, we're not doing that. You might. I'm not saying the Utqiaġvik isn't going to get a shout out on this episode. I'm just saying it might get a shout out in this episode. Here are the points of the triangle. So in the bottom left, you have Anchorage. There's a lot of Anchorage in this episode. Like almost every story, I feel like at least mentions Anchorage.
That's like the New York of Alaska.
Yeah, which isn't. I mean, it is, but yeah. And then the bottom right point is, what other city do you know in Alaska? It's
Juneau.
Yeah, that's the only other one you know.
It's the Chicago of Alaska.
It's the Denver. And then up top is a city that used to be called Barrow, but then they decided to let a cat walk over their keyboard, and that cat got to name this city.
Meow?
No, like, you know when a cat walks on a keyboard and then there's like 14 letters that have no business hanging out?
They need
like,
meow.
It's like when you take a group of friends that don't know each other. Like somebody gets married.
Yeah.
And then you have all these people that have no business being in the same room except for the fact that they know that one person.
Mm-hmm,
That's these letters. And the one person is the cat.
So there's like a J with an X.
It's Utqiaġvik. Utqiaġvik. It might be Utqiaġvik. I'm actually gonna look it up because I just made fun of it for 30 seconds, so I'm gonna do my due diligence.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. It's a Q, so it's UTQIAGVIK. And according to the first video I found on YouTube, it's Utqiaġvik, and I actually kind of like that name. Utqiaġvik. Utqiaġvik. I actually kind of like it, to be honest.
All right.
And we found out that this is the city, or one of the cities. I don't know how great of an area this spans. But this is one of the cities that experiences months of darkness, which is like the vampire movie, 30 Days of Night.
Yeah.
Should have been 60 Days of Night, apparently. But anyway, that is the topmost point. So Utqiaġvik is at the top, Anchorage is the bottom left part of the triangle, and Juneau is the bottom right of the triangle.
It's a pretty big triangle.
It's Alaska.
Yeah.
I looked at it on a map, and I'm like, oh, the Alaska Triangle. It's Alaska.
So Alaska, that's really big.
I bet the housing market, like right outside the triangle, is just booming, right? Everything not owned by moose.
I think that's most of it.
So now let's get into the missing people. So like I said, since 1988, a reported 16,000 people have gone missing, which is apparently more than twice the national average. And from what I read, this isn't like somebody disappeared and then they showed up dead. This is more like somebody disappeared and that's it. Like, you don't find the bodies. We don't know where they go. We don't know where they are. We don't know why these people left, what happened to it. There's a lot of planes too. It's kind of like people missing and then planes. That's kind of our two staples here.
They didn't leave signs that say gone fishing.
Yeah. Okay. Don't worry about me unless you don't hear from me in like 3 years. No, or they're like peeing in the snow. Like, I went and then they ran out of water. So even with newer technology, full-on search and rescue missions conducted by authorities, not many people have been able to be found. And apparently, not like I know it doesn't equal exactly 16,000, but Alaska expects between 500 and 2,000 people to go missing each year. And this isn't like a New York or like a Chicago or anything. Like, this is, yeah, it's a whole state, but still, you know?
That's a lot.
So I don't know why we're living here if it's so strange. Like, it's clearly not the weather. We know, I think Kendra's from.
She is.
Yeah.
I think she's from Juneau?
Yeah. Or Anchorage. Yeah.
One of those two.
I can't remember where I heard this. I actually think it might have been James Renner's podcast. But maybe when I say this, it'll ring a bell and you can tell me. But somebody was talking about how Alaska's like a great state for people to get away to. It's like if things aren't going good here and you just kind of want to go off the map but not be like too far off,
yeah,
like go to Alaska.
I think that was Renner. because he was like it was like the Wild West.
Yeah. So before we get into the famous examples of people going missing, I found this comment on Reddit, and I'll be honest, I don't really know where else to put this Reddit comment, but it sums up how I just feel about being in Alaska. All right. So this is a quote from somebody on Reddit. I live in Alaska, and honestly, plane crashes in the news are not that uncommon at all. We had a plane crash into a small building in our downtown area, which is basically the same vicinity as airstrip for small planes. And there was one caught on video at a location about a mile away, and about 10 years earlier behind a summer baseball league game going on. We constantly hear about people going missing in plane crashes. Unquote.
It feels like the John Mulaney joke. A small plane crash today, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like, it's news. It's
Yeah.
It'd be weird if that didn't happen, right? I was actually thinking about that today because of, I'm going to be on a plane tomorrow, or 2 days. I'm going to be on a plane in 2 days. And I was thinking, if a plane crashed tomorrow, some people might be like, I don't want to fly. A plane just crashed. But statistically, it's like, all right, we got it out of our system now.
Yeah. The odds of like planes crashing 2 days in a row are
very unlikely.
Astronomical.
I would buy 2 flights that next day.
So you should buy the lottery.
But anyways, enough of that. Let's get to some of the bigger cases. Are you ready?
Oh, yeah. Let's go.
All right. So a lot of this is from the travelchannel.com.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go.
This goes from the 50s to the last couple years. And I have 8 stories. And they are chronological, obviously. So the first one took place in 1950. So in 1950, a Douglas C-54 Skymaster, which is just a large World War II.
Feels like a made-up plane.
It sounds like one of those like RC ones you fly like with a remote control.
Yeah.
Or I guess, well, they weren't called drones back when we were kids. They were pieces of garbage. But it was a large World War II aircraft. And it left Anchorage for Minnesota with 44 people on board. The pilots expected clear skies and excellent visibility for the journey. The 44 was 8 crew members, 3 engineers, 34 military service members, and 2 civilians. 2 regular ass people.
They're just like, I gotta go to Minnesota.
I got business in Minnesota. It's like, I'm going to go tell my...
surrounded by the whole military.
I'm going to go tell my great-grandfather not to give Kirk Cousins the bag. But it was expected that the plane would continue to make regular radio contact as it traveled to Minnesota, which I assume is pretty standard. I'm not a pilot, never claimed to be, but I feel like communication between people on the ground and people in the sky is a good
pretty
thing.
Essential.
Actually,
between drags of cigarettes.
Yes. Communication in most aspects of life is pretty important. However, very shortly after taking off from Anchorage, the radio contact stopped. They got the cold Alaska shoulder. There was one single radio signal made that was done throughout the whole process, and the pilot sounded calm, and everything felt very routine. There was no hint from the pilot that there was any distress. But the plane never arrived in Minnesota. More than 75 U.S. and Canadian aircrafts participated in an extensive search and rescue for the missing plane, but the plane and all 44 passengers were never seen again.
Whoa!
But a Canadian Forest Mountie Ranger reported seeing a low-flying plane traveling about 40 miles southwest, but the plane suddenly disappeared, and then he heard a loud explosion and saw black smoke in the sky. But that was all he saw.
Whoa. Hold on.
Oh, God, no, yeah.
What if they hit like that invisible wall in video games?
Yes, the map.
Yeah, and the map ended.
They went past the map. You know what? Remember that thought.
Okay.
Remember that thought, because I think that actually ties into one of our theories.
All right. I'm interested.
All right. Second missing persons. This takes place in 1972.
Okay. Getting real hippie with it.
Yeah, in October of 1972, United States Representative Hale Boggs, Nick Begich, and their special assistant, Russell Brown. I can say that
His
one.
name sounds like a slur.
Which one?
Hale Boggs. I don't know.
And it sounds, I guess, bogs, like a swamp.
Yeah.
But like a bog. I'm living in the Hale Bogs. And pilot Don Johns left...
Is it played by Justin Long? Or...
No. The dude from Batman, Robin, and 500 Days of Summer Night. Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yes.
No. But that plane with all of those people left Anchorage in a aircraft, I'm not going to say it, for what was supposed to be just a chill 3.5-hour flight to Juneau. Because it was the only Anchorage and Juneau. There's only ones that matter. The intention was to attend a planned election rally. Because remember, these are United States reps, right? Okay. However, unlike the previous story, this trip was expected to have a little turbulence, low visibility, and icy conditions. And I don't know what this means. It's subjective, but in my research and a couple articles I was cross-checking, Don Johns, the pilot, was known to be a little bit of a risk taker. I don't know if that means mid-route he'd do a little barrel roll just to wake you up, you know?
You go up and down a little bit, a couple thousand feet.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it means if the runway was snowy, he would chance it and try.
He would do a Tokyo drift in the sky.
He's like, "You guys ever done a donut in an airplane?" Donut, that is a sponsor, but it's not this episode. But regardless, John called the tower about 10 minutes after takeoff, but that was the last time that anybody heard from this plane. It's weird. It's like takeoff, one phone call, that's it.
Yeah.
Dunzo. The U.S. Coast Guard, the Navy, the Army, the Air Force, and Civil Air Patrol all searched for this plane and the passengers. But after 39 days, the search was suspended and they were assumed dead. Two things. One, I can't say this word, but I'm going to try. Posthumously.
So close.
Posthumously. Boggs, they won. They won their election.
Good for him.
Isn't that crazy? It's almost like they were like, hey, they can't screw us over if they're not around.
Oh, wow.
That might be a little bit dark there, that thought, but at the same time, I think it's a little crazy. Maybe, tragedy sells. But it's surprising to me that instead of whoever was running against him automatically winning, the person that just passed in the mysterious plane crash.
How bad of a candidate do you have to be?
I know, that's
guy.
That's shameful. I lost to a guy that is missing. 2, a report said that there was no emergency transmission emitted from the plane. So apparently the plane's emergency transmitter, which was portable, not attached to the plane, don't know if that's usual or not, that was actually found on another plane in Fairbanks, Alaska. So this emergency transmission that was meant to be in this plane with these U.S. reps wasn't in the plane, and it was found later somewhere else on a different plane in a different city. And also a witness saw an unidentified object in the pilot's briefcase that resembled a portable emergency transmitter. It just was a different color. So this person is saying, you guys are saying this plane didn't have it. I'm pretty sure I saw it in the pilot's briefcase. And the safety records they checked for this plane showed that there was no transmitter and claimed that the pilot did not have one either. So the question is was the pilot up to something? Because if the plane claimed it didn't have it and then it crashed or it went down, everybody's gone, and then they found it somewhere else, you would assume that somebody from the plane took it somewhere else. Potentially. Yeah. Maybe the pilot. I don't know. True crime! Number 3, 1995. This is a short one. This is a popcorn.
Okay, all right.
In 1995, a 73-year-old World War II veteran was hanging out in Fairbanks, which we just mentioned. That's where the transmitter was found.
That's the third biggest city in Alaska.
It must be. And he was enjoying a 4th of July parade when he up and vanished.
What?
It was acknowledged that he walked with a limp due to past war injuries.
And being a pimp.
And in a different article I found, that was very descriptive. He had like shrapnel still on his back.
Oh, dang.
It's rough. I feel like that's meant. There's no. I'm connecting dots here. This wasn't mentioned, but I'm assuming that is said because 1, if you see him, you'll know because he's limping.
Yeah.
But 2, it's not like he can just like run away.
He's not a fast runner.
He's not going to run away.
There's metal in his spine.
Yeah. And not because it's meant to be there. Police had no leads or information as to what happened to him or where he might have went, and 2 years later, he was legally declared dead.
Dang. Man, imagine just like, oh boy, can't wait to see little Bobby and the float going, yay, waving to me, and then you're just gone.
Gone.
Crazy.
Gonzo. Number 4, 2001. We're in the new millennium. Thomas Anthony Nuzzi was a nurse that traveled throughout Alaska, picking up various shifts in different locations.
That's a well-paying job.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we'll get to how he traveled and we'll understand. But obviously this left him without a permanent address, or at least not a permanent address. Like, he might have owned a house. I'm not
Right.
saying, I don't want to put that on wax. But he was often traveling from hotel to hotel to motel, whatever, because he was picking up shifts at different locations. So in 2001, well, maybe it didn't pay that well, while staying at a Super 8 in Anchorage, Nuzzy was reported missing after not showing up for work in Bethel, Alaska, which is reported as a short flight from Anchorage. So this is on a whole nother level, because there are people in the city who walk to work,
Yeah.
and then there's people who take a subway to work, and then there's people who take a bus to work, and there's people like us who drive to work, and then there's people like Nuzzy who fly to work.
Well, I feel, okay, I know this little fact. I was going to put it somewhere in this episode, but there are parts of Alaska
That you can only get to by plane.
that are inaccessible by any other means besides air travel. Yes.
Yes, I don't know if this is one of them, or if he just loaded. And he, instead of staying at a fancy hotel, he stays at the Super 8. And instead of getting a nice car, like a Honda Accord, he gets he flies to his places. I would either be late every day, or because you have to show up at like the airport so early, I would be on time.
I'd assume it's a private flight.
You get to the location like, oh, I forgot my notebook at home. So again, he's reported missing. Investigators eventually found gas station surveillance footage of Nuzzy the night before he was reported missing. He was casually buying cigarettes, a lighter, chips, and a soda and or pop, depending where you're from, and was accompanied by a woman. When investigators interviewed staff at the Super 8 motel, one of the employees claimed that they encountered a strange man laying on the floor inside Nuzzy's room. But it wasn't Nuzzy. There was another man laying on the floor in his room, and they left and were like, that's weird. And then they came back to the room later. The man was still in there, but he was sitting on Nuzzy's bed. And they're like, sir, I'm going to need you to GTFO because this is not your room. And this guy's missing. Yeah. A few days later, they found Nuzzy's bicycle at his storage unit, so he didn't take that. And they found his Jeep 12 miles away, significantly away from Anchorage. So stay tuned for more Believing the True Crime. That's where it ends.
Oh,
he's missing. He's gone. Nobody knows. He disappeared. Thin air.
But that woman's the same woman who kidnapped Antonio Villas-Boas.
I bet it is. She was like, he has a nice chin. All right, number 5. This is 2006. Richard Lyman Griffiths was from Spokane, Washington, and he invented the wilderness survival cocoon. And that summer, he decided, I'm going to put this to the test. And what better place to use a wilderness survival cocoon than Southeast Alaska, Southeast Alaska, very specifically Southeast Alaska, to test his invention. No one reported him missing for a year because they all assumed he was out in the wilderness using Dr. Squatch and testing his wilderness survival cocoon.
And he was metamorphosizing into a butterfly.
A huge into Mothman.
Oh, I bet it is.
Butterfly, bro. But when police finally started searching for him, they discovered a bus had dropped him off along the Alaska Highway, and he stopped at a lodge near White River. Great detail, don't know what that means. As in, I know what it means, but I don't know where it is. Where he left some of his gear. Hopefully not the
cocoon.
Well, maybe it was a cocoon, because then maybe we can still use it. What if he took the only prototype? I don't want to live in a world
without the cocoon.
Without the wilderness survival cocoon. But he left his gear, and he told folks there at that lodge that he was going to hike upriver to McCarthy, a small town
named after witch hunter McCarthy,
or the coach of the Dallas Cowboys. He was hiking up by the Wrangell St. Elias National Park. Elias?
Oh, a national park?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
So he can camp wherever with his cocoon. But he was never seen again. That's a difficult thing because you're going camping, you know what I mean, by yourself. Yeah. Like if no offense, if you were like, I'm going in the middle of nowhere to camp, if I didn't hear from you in a couple weeks, I'd be like, yeah, he's camping. He's unwinding.
You wouldn't assume I'm dead.
Well, you're not just detaching. You're becoming very attuned to nature and your body and the cocoon. But yeah, nobody worried about him. But finally, a Canadian Mountie went out and reported him missing. This episode is not sponsored by the Wilderness Survival Cocoon. I just want to be very clear about that. Number 6. This took place in 2013. In September of 2013, a very skilled and professional pilot, Alan Foster, was flying his PA-32 360 airplane from Atlanta to Anchorage. One, I don't know what that means.
So those later models of the Xbox 360?
I'm assuming it's not Target brand. It's not
I don't think so.
The Goodfellow plane.
The market pantry market plane.
The Great Value plane, yeah. Apparently he had over 9,000 hours of flight time.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I don't know many things that I have 9,000 hours of. Definitely not sleeping. Probably eating, complaining, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, and Left 4 Dead. Like, those are probably the only things I have 9,000 hours of.
10,000 hours and you're a master.
That's true. That's what I've heard. I don't know. I'd have to calculate it, and I'm not going to do that on the podcast. When he was less than 400 miles from Anchorage, because I feel like everything's around Anchorage.
People live around there, so it makes sense.
He stopped at Utqiaġvik, Alaska, to refuel his plane. And after leaving Utqiaġvik, he called the Juneau flight service for a weather update and mentioned to them that if the weather was not clear, he was going to take wilderness survival cocoon. I'm just kidding. If the weather was not good, then he was just going to stay the night in Cordova. Land, kind of the smart decision, right? Like,
probably,
if the weather is bad there, I'm going to just stay over here. But that's why I recommend downloading right now. I don't even mind if you pause the podcast. Download the Weather Channel app. It's great. It gives you radar. It tells you what the weather's going to be like. He could have checked his phone.
2013?
Yeah. That was like the iPhone 3. About 20 minutes after asking ground control, or whatever they're called, about the Juneau flight service for the weather update, their radar showed a transponder target at Foster's plane at about 1,100 feet. So, what is the transponder? The transponder provides aircraft identification and barometric altitude for folks at control stations or whatever they're called on the ground, right? So it just lets you know who it is and where they're at.
Okay.
That transponder target was the last anyone ever heard from Foster. He never made it to Anchorage, and after extensive search, no one found Foster or any sign of his plane. And that's the interesting thing, or the weird part, right? Like, none of these planes are being found. It's not like it's like they find the plane in mint condition and the people are gone. That'd be weird too. But there's like no planes either.
They're not just like landing in like the ocean or something?
They're not really going over water though.
I don't know.
Number 7, Jail Tiara Hamblin. Now this one, there was a site I found, which I recommend if you're into true crime, which I know you all are. You're probably so excited that this has little bits of true crime in it. I pulled this word for word, and I'm going to read it because I really enjoyed this. It feels journalistic and gritty, and like, oh my God, what happened? What happened to this person? Which is a real person, so we're not trying to, But it's called the Charlie Project.
Okay.
It's not spelled like your name. It's CHARLEY.
Ley.
Ley.
Okay.
Project, spelled like project. I used it multiple times in this episode to kind of flesh out some details. Because I found, I think at the Travel Channel, right? Like, I found the articles that had, the baseline of these stories, but then I also wanted to get more details. But this one I want to read word for word. It has a good true crime feel to it.
Okay.
So you ready?
Yeah.
Quote, Hamblin was last seen in the Trailside Loop area in southern Anchorage, Alaska on October 11th, 2014. She and her roommate, Kendra Vincent Estrada, went out to dinner together and returned home before 10 p.m. Estrada's children and Hamblin's infant son were being babysat by Estrada's mother at the time. Hamblin was thinking of going out again, but her roommate went to bed. That night, Hamblin was upset because a man she was interested in had rejected her. She texted a male friend at 1:40 a.m. saying she was crying and wanted to get together with him, and she exchanged text messages with another man shortly after 3 a.m. This was the last time anyone heard from her. Estrada texted Hamblin the next day at 10:32 a.m., and Hamblin didn't respond. At noon, Estrada knocked on her door and discovered she was gone and the bed was unmade. She had taken her purse and her cell phone with her, but left her vehicle, a 1998 Ford Expedition with the Alaska license plate, I'm not going to read it, parked in the driveway. She did not have a driver's license, but she did have a learner's permit. Estrada initially assumed Hamblin had gone out the night before and stayed out all night, or left home early in the morning. She texted her twice during the afternoon, but got no response, and calls to her phone went straight to voicemail. Hamblin has never been heard from again. A later analysis of her phone shows that neither of Estrada's text messages on October 12th were received, meaning Hamlin's phone was either turned off or the battery was dead. She was reported missing by her mother on October 14th. In March 2015, hikers found Hamlin's black purse buried in the snow along a trail at Utqiaġvik, Alaska, and turned it into the police. Inside was her social security card and her iPhone 5. Authorities don't believe Hamlin placed it there herself. The weather on the night she disappeared was below freezing, and she didn't enjoy hiking. Authorities are investigating Hamlin's case as a possible homicide. It remains unsolved.
Oh, man.
Unquote.
That dude.
Isn't that true crimey?
Yeah, so
you got to put some true crimey James Renner-ass music in there.
For sure. The dude who she texted is super suspicious.
Which one? She texted to?
The dude who didn't reject her.
Oh.
The obvious booty call.
Come over. I'm sharpening my knives. Bring your social security card.
Or they both said no, right? And she ended up texting aliens.
Yeah.
And they said, okay.
What color is your purse? Is it black?
What's your social security number? And she goes, I don't know. They go, bring it.
Just in case.
No, it's not funny. It's a terrible thing that happened. Oh, geez, oh man.
Number 8, Shannon Oman. This is the last of the... Now, encounters rolls off the tongue. That's not true. This is the last of the missing persons cases. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about. 2019. This is just a couple years ago. Alaska vicious. So Shannon Oman disappeared after leaving her friend's house in Fairbanks, Alaska at 12:30 a.m. on June 3rd, 2019. Fairbanks again. Nothing good up. You could say that for everywhere, I guess, right? There's probably some really great towns in Alaska.
It's a super ominous last name, though.
Oman?
Yeah.
Oman. She was originally from Eagle River, Alaska. Shayna was visiting a friend in Fairbanks at the time of her disappearance. Her friend was supposed to give her a ride home at Eagle River, and when she dropped out of sight completely, her friend just assumed that she had made other arrangements to get home until her roommate called and said that Shayna never got home. Apparently, Shayna ended up at a cabin on Pleasant Valley Road after leaving her friend's house. The owner of the cabin said she, quote, walked away, unquote, on June 4th. Authorities checked the area but found no indication of her whereabouts. And, it sounds repetitive, she was never heard from again. However, Shayna left all of her belongings behind, including money and her dog. Did take her cell phone with her, but her phone's battery was dying the last time she spoke to anyone. The very last ping on her phone was near the area of 17 Mile on Chenna Hot Springs Road.
I would guess the mile marker.
Somewhere else. And at this point, her family assumes the worst, that she has passed.
Yeah. Wow.
So this is our last missing person story. So now let's get to some of the theories that people have proposed as to why so many people go missing in Alaska, what this Alaska Triangle is all about, and more. When you walk into a house or an apartment, what is the absolute first thing you look for?
What kind of art is hanging on the walls? Duh.
Exactly. Okay, maybe not. But aesthetic is important.
So if you want to flex awesome and unique designs in your home, you need to check out Fox Off Art.
Fox Off Art is telling basic designs to fox off, or one might say, go fox yourself.
I love their Pokemon artwork, like the Mew or the full Gengar Evolution line, and a lot more. And they have classic cartoons like Cow and Chicken, and Grim from Billy and Mandy, and literally one of my favorite characters of all time, the Goat Bender.
Plus, they just dropped a Mothman and a Jersey Devil design, which is right up our alley, and I know you're going to love it. It's great for hallways, bedrooms, bathrooms, nurseries, just about anywhere with a wall.
What if I told you that you only had to pay 85% full price?
What are you talking about?
I'm saying that when you go to Fox Off Art's Etsy page and use the promo code BIZARRE, you get 15% off.
So start decorating your walls with Fox Off Art's awesome designs. And again, use the promo code BIZARRE for 15% off.
Fox, yeah!
All right, possible theories. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
3, 4, 5.
I got 6. I got 6 theories. Number 1, natural, rugged terrain.
Yeah.
This is the most boring, but it's also likely the most probable, right?
Yeah.
So this theory adheres to the belief that Alaska's geography is just so tough that it sets people up to go missing.
Yeah. You gotta shave that terrain.
What?
Because it's rugged. Like a rugged beard.
So this includes massive glaciers with giant holes, hidden caves, and crevices the size of skyscrapers.
Whoa.
Naturally makes it very difficult to walk around or to hike or to ride your bike, or it's just not good to get lost in. And it doesn't necessarily explain plane crashes, but it could explain why so many planes are not able to be found.
Why?
Because they could end up in weird areas, crevices, holes. Like it could literally crash and fall down.
Like sink into the glacier.
Yes. But also, here's an example of why the terrain could lead to planes not being found. And it's actually another example of a missing person.
Okay.
But they're not missing anymore. They're not alive, but they're not missing anymore. It's like an avalanche theory.
Okay.
There was a British South American airway plane that from the 1940s, and it was missing for decades until 1998, when 2 mountain climbers from Argentina were ascending a mountain and found the wreckage. They believe that the plane hit a glacier, crashed, caused an avalanche, and literally the plane was buried within minutes.
Okay.
So there could be a lot of planes out there, ones that we discussed already, that maybe crashed, caused an avalanche,
and buried themselves.
Which is absolutely terrifying. Like, terrifying. Like, I can't imagine. One, crashing would be, like, I would hope I would die in the crash, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But then you land, and then all of a sudden, you just this rush of snow, and it covers you up, and it's like water. It's like the ocean, right? Mm-hmm. It's like that suffocation. It's like there's nothing you can do. Forces more powerful than you are at play, and you just have to deal with it.
Imagine that silence after it settles. It's terrible.
Because it's probably, well, it would probably, would it crush the cabin? Or would you just not be able to leave?
I don't know.
I
don't know. If
it crushed the cabin, I don't want to say it's faster, but it's immediate. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't crush and you just can't open the door, that'd be terrible. It's like that scene in The Perfect Storm where it's upside down and they're just like floating in there and they're like, this is it.
I've never seen The Perfect Storm.
Oh, it's sad. But it also
is it not super
it's
perfect?
It's kind of like Dyatlov's Pass, where it's like some people think that it was that slab avalanche that caused the tent, right? Mm-hmm. It's just a bad situation. It's scary. Avalanche and drowning and waves. I saw a video on Twitter. Oh my God. It was a glacier fell in the water and then this jet ski, or not a jet ski, it was a boat, but it was a small boat. It had to speed away and the cameraman turned behind it and you could see, it wasn't like a tsunami, but a massive wave was coming because of the glacier falling in and it was like behind him. Oh my God. One of the most adrenaline inducing videos I've watched on Twitter in a long time that isn't about Cleveland sports. Number 2, and this one I like a lot. Okay. Energy vortexes.
Okay.
Are you familiar?
I've heard that term, but only in like science fiction.
Okay, the first time I heard about it was actually in 2008 in Sedona, Arizona, when I went there with my family.
Oh, okay.
Because we went on a hike that was intended that, like, you went on this long winding hike through different areas and you kind of end climbing up a mountain, and the whole idea of it was then when you ended the hike and you were up on this mountain, you were supposed to be at an energy vortex and you're supposed to like feel it. I did not feel it. I was like 16. I couldn't care less. I was tired. It was an awesome hike. It was very long hike there and it started pouring, hailing, and we ran back. So very fast on the way back. It was cool. I loved the hike. I didn't feel any effects. Not saying that doesn't mean it's real.
Right.
I just didn't. Maybe I'm not sensitive enough.
Okay, how does that relate to the plane, though?
Well, let me explain what they are first. Energy vortexes are thought to be swirling centers of energy concentrated in specific places where the energy crackles most intensely. The energy radiates in a spiral cone shape, either clockwise or counterclockwise. And why does that matter? Because it can either have a positive effect, which is what the hike in Sedona was meant for, or it can have a negative effect.
Oh.
And it can like affect you physically, emotionally, mentally. So let's talk about a positive one first, because let's be happy for a minute. An upward clockwise spiral energy vortex is thought to be conducive to meditation, increased energy, inspiration, and creativity. Locations that claim to have positive energy vortexes include the Egyptian pyramids, the Sedona Desert, for real,
Okay.
and Stonehenge.
Love to go there.
Those are places that have positive energy vortexes. Now, on the other side, negative energy vortexes have a downward spiral that's going in a counterclockwise motion. This has depleting and draining effects on the body, which includes depression, nightmares, disorientation, confusion, and hallucinations. They also theorize to cause electronic instruments and machines to malfunction, such as, I don't know,
Planes.
an airplane.
Yeah.
Locations associated with negative vortexes include the Bermuda Triangle and Japan's Devil's Sea.
Oh,
and
okay.
you guessed it, the Alaska Triangle. I actually like this theory a lot because it could potentially explain odd behavior, like if these people decide to just walk away into the wilderness and go missing, or if when they're in the wilderness, they do something strange, like maybe they bury themselves, or maybe they try and camp without the proper materials, or they leave and they don't know why they left, and when they come to, they're lost and they're disoriented and they don't know what's going on. So I think that could potentially explain some strange behavior that leads to people getting lost.
It totally fogs their mind up too, you know?
And also could explain planes crashing.
Yeah.
And that is from legendsofamerica.com along with discover.com. All that information. I didn't just know what energy vortexes are. Giving credit where credit's due. Number 3, aliens. Come on, you know we have to talk about aliens.
Oh yeah.
You know we have to talk about aliens.
I definitely, for sure.
But I'm not trying to make this into Hamilton Light, because I'll be honest, if this episode felt lacking on time, I probably would have found a bunch of Alaska UFO encounters, but that could be an episode for another day. We could literally have we could have 50 episodes in the hopper. We could have Georgia UFO encounters, Ohio UFO encounters, Pennsylvania UFO encounters. Or we kind of already did Montana.
New Mexico,
California. We can and then we can start doing state. Then we can start doing cities. Dayton, Ohio's,
or
Santa Fe's,
different countries, French UFO encounters.
Oh man, we're just gonna be believing the UFO experiences per location. But I do have one UFO experience from 1986 in Alaska because it was interesting.
It's a cold night.
Yeah, Japan Airlines flight 1628 was going from Paris to Tokyo with a cargo full of. Do you have a guess?
Chickens.
Nope.
Kobe beef.
Wine.
Oh. Okay,
yeah.
Sure.
And the flight was scheduled to refuel in Anchorage, of course. During the flight, the captain, seated on the cockpit's left side, saw bright lights shining through his window. The lights were to the left and below, and the captain assumed that it was just military planes. So he ignored it. He ignored the lights. He was like, it's fine. But then he realized that these lights were keeping pace with his aircraft. The captain quickly contacted the Anchorage Center and asked if any other aircraft, either civilian or military, was in the vicinity of his plane. The Anchorage Center flight controller said there were no military aircrafts in the area, and ground radar didn't show any other traffic besides that plane. And at that exact moment, the lights began moving erratically. They suddenly appeared directly in front of the plane, and Captain Tarachi said the inside of the cockpit shined brightly and he felt the warmth of the UFO's thrusters on his face.
What?
The captain and his crew were not immediately frightened, but instead watched in amazement as the lights pulsed and kept pace with the jumbo jet. When Captain Tarachi reported the strange lights, the Anchorage Center controller said he saw nothing on his radar. Still, the plane's radar, though, showed large green round objects 7 to 8 miles away. When the plane arrived above the Air Force Base near Fairbanks, it was a clear night, and Captain Tarachi looked out his window and saw the silhouette of a gigantic spaceship following their plane. He later said that the UFO was twice the size of an aircraft carrier. He could only guess that this was the mothership of the smaller UFOs that the plane had encountered earlier. The massive unidentified aircraft struck fear in the captain, and he attempted evasive maneuvers to avoid it. But the UFO mirrored his every move. The Anchorage Center controller offered to scramble a military jet, but the captain declined, fearing that this enormous UFO spaceship might consider it confrontational. When a United Airlines passenger jet flew into the area near the cargo plane, the air traffic controller asked the United States crew to get a visual of the situation. But Captain Tarachi said as soon as the United States airline plane arrived, the UFO disappeared and he didn't see it again. So, maybe people are being abducted by aliens, maybe planes are getting crashed into and shot down by motherships.
Or just straight up taken. If it's that big,
yeah,
maybe they're just taking planes.
I'll be honest, I'm not feeling this one as much, but I love The Fourth Kind. Great movie.
Oh, I love that movie. Is that in Anchorage?
I think it's Juneau.
Okay.
I don't know. It has to be one of the two.
I really like the idea that they're just straight up taking small planes.
Just
taking them.
Sucking them up.
Mm-hmm.
All right, our fourth theory. I'll be interested to see if you've heard about this. The Black Pyramid.
No.
Okay, you had to think about it.
I did.
So this theory claims that a black pyramid, twice the size of the Great Pyramid of Giza, lies underneath Mount Denali.
Doesn't know.
And the energy from this pyramid, this huge black pyramid, could be causing people, planes, and boats to disappear, along with putting out strange energy waves that make wildlife more aggressive towards humans.
Moose, bear.
So there's a video I watched about this Black Pyramid, which I think I could easily see this being an episode down the road.
A Black Pyramid?
In more detail, because I actually don't want to go into too much detail about it here because I find it interesting. But there was a video I found on Kodiak Daily Mirror, and it talked about how in 1992, which I didn't know about this, there was a nuclear underground explosion in China, and it sent shock waves across the globe, and apparently U.S. seismographs picked up geological anomalies just north of Anchorage.
Yeah,
right?
I knew about that because they caused Dunkaroos to spawn into existence.
Dunkaroos?
Dunkaroos.
Those candies? Those cookie things?
Yeah.
What?
I'm not serious. It was
okay.
a joke.
I was like, I don't see. I'm like, I will pause the podcast topic and allow you have the floor if you can tie those together. And you might know about this person because I think they're in the ufology world. But a journalist named Linda Moulton Howe was asked to look into this, and she was contacted by an ex-naval worker who stayed anonymous, obviously, and claimed that his father had a Navy career and continued working on a special project in Alaska. His father said that they were mining shaft elevators in the region, and he would go to the bottom of a huge black pyramid, and his job was to test and study the structure as it was giving off immense energy.
And this isn't a man-made pyramid.
No, I don't think that's not what they're claiming. I think they didn't know it existed until 1992 when the seismograph was like, wait a minute, there's something there. And then they looked and it was just a huge pyramid.
And okay, you said black. Is it like nebulous black or is it like obsidian black?
It doesn't say.
Okay, all right.
They, you know what they said? They said black.
All right.
Number 5. I don't think this. Yeti, right? Like the Yeti, the Dyatlov Yeti. Or the Kushtaka. You know, maybe there's a creature looking around, harming people, hikers, confusing them, eating them. Maybe they're eating the remains.
Yeah.
You just got Yetis with rocket launchers waiting for planes to drive by. You're going down, motherfucker.
Yeah, he's playing Call of Duty.
I'm going to leave that one at that because I don't think that's the case. All right. Remember when you said, because this is our final theory, you were like, what if they just hit the end of the game wall?
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Number 6. We are, all of us, me, Charlie, my cat, you, the listener. We're all living in a simulation.
Oh my God. See, that theory freaks me out.
It's a trippy theory, man. You know what? There was a time when I didn't believe this, but have you ever seen, and there's probably a legitimate, if you, the listener, because you know I like to stay more scientific. Mm-hmm. If you, the listener, have ever experienced this or know why I experienced this, let me know. Have you ever seen the sky glitch?
The sky?
Yeah.
No.
I've seen, it's almost like the sky glitches. I can't explain
You
it.
stare at the sky a lot more than I do, though.
But it's not at nighttime. I've never seen it at nighttime. It's always during the day. Like whether it's, and it's normally a cloudy day. Maybe it's a light I'm seeing behind it. Maybe it's the way the sun is refracting. I don't know. But sometimes the sky just looks like it goes, like a glitch, like a TV glitch.
No, I've never seen that.
It's super strange, and I've talked about it with my friends before, but they're more way off than I am.
Fix your adjustment.
I guess. I don't know. Fix the lens. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Some people believe that we are in a simulation, and the reason people get lost in the woods and such is because of a rendering issue.
Oh, wow. Well, here's the thing. I think scientists are way more sure that we are in a simulation than I am comfortable with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not saying they're like 100% sure. I think that's not it. They're like...
Well, there's certain scientists.
Yeah. I think some say like 50%, and that's way, way more than I wish for.
It makes me think of like a video game where the only part of the game that's real is what you're looking at. Like once you turn around, whatever is like, because they want to save space on the game, so it just doesn't load.
7 point something billion are looking at something.
So you're going to lose a couple people in Alaska, all right? That's the trade-off.
That's
the trade-off. It's crazy because I think anybody who's ever played The Sims has had the thought where it's like, if you played an older Sims game, because I think Sims 3, people are always doing stuff. But in the old ones, people just walk by your property and they would come and ring your doorbell. And if you weren't home, they would just leave and then go away to the ether. And I feel like anybody playing that game at one point was like, huh. So they just only exist when they're around me. And that's obviously very egocentric, where you're like, the world revolves around me. So when we're done with this podcast, Charlie goes home and he doesn't exist until I need him again.
Which is the next 5 minutes, because you always text me.
That's very true. So it's an interesting theory. But basically, kind of like you said, there's like, we live in a world with a map and defined lines. And when you go beyond these lines, it glitches. Or maybe, like you brought up a good point, like the universe is so expansive, or the world is so expansive, that maybe it's just running out of memory. We have more than 7 billion people. In the 90s, literally 30 years ago, we had 5 billion.
Yeah.
The world has grown by more than 2 billion people in 30 years. And I'm not a population control guy. That's not, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Obviously, resources, all that, whatever. But like, I mean, it's interesting to think how, if this is true, how that could play into that. It's just, you keep downloading music, man. You keep going through Livewire. More albums come out. You just keep filling up that space. There's actually a Cleveland native that wrote a book. I think it was called The Saturn Cube. His name is Nick Hinton.
Okay.
He does really good threads on Twitter. Okay. Like those long threads where each one is like tweet as a good picture and it leads into another. He does some crazy way out there theories. He's really smart. I don't want to misspeak about like the Saturn Cube and simulation theories and all that, because I am not knowledgeable about it. I know very surface level stuff. It's just interesting to think about it. I'm not saying I necessarily buy in or anything. I just think it's interesting. But anyway, maybe Alaska's, the simulation's weak, or like, you think about a CD that's scratched.
Okay.
And they say put the toothpaste on or whatever. Like maybe Alaska is just like a scratched TV or a scratched CD where it's more likely to skip or glitch or bounce.
It's just a place where no one expected people to go.
Yeah, like why would you be like, listen, why? We gave you all these warm places and you're there? Yeah, I don't know. But those are all of our theories. And with that said, let's go to the discussion. All right, now is the time that we like to appreciate and thank our new patrons. So, like I said, we're recording a little bit early. I'm going to be out of town. So, if you stumble in tomorrow, we'll catch you on the next week. But as of right now, this recording, Tuesday, February 22nd, we would like to say thank you to Crystal, Shelly, and Ariel.
Wow. Thank you guys so much for joining the Patreon. It means a lot to all of us. All of us. By all of us, I mean Tyler and myself. And Ben.
Producer Ben is out there somewhere. It means a lot to him. But seriously, thank you so much. And we say it, but when we say it again, we got quizzes. We have director's cuts. We have Google Hangouts where we literally just chill, talk for about an hour on Google Hangouts. We watch horror movies together through the Netflix Party Watch chat, and then Charlie and I record our thoughts, which I think we were pretty clear is about Annabelle Creation.
Yeah, it's out by this time. It will be.
It better be out.
It will be out by this time.
It'll be out. But it's a lot of fun. It's literally building a community, and it's helping support Charlie and I and make sure maybe for our live episode, we'll actually be able to travel outside of Ohio this year.
That'd be cool. Really cool.
We'll see what happens. But seriously,
we were so close last time.
We were actually very close, almost in Kentucky. But we appreciate all the support. We appreciate everybody who's been joining the Patreon. And we hope you're enjoying the shirts and the people that got the hats. We hope you like the hats. And if you still haven't gotten the hat, I have checked with our service about shipping and it'll be coming your way. Just hit us up if you have any questions. But seriously, thank you everybody so much. And now let's get to the discussion. All right, so before we go into theories, because I think theories is where the majority of the discussion is going to be.
Absolutely, yeah.
Is there a missing persons case or anything we talked about with any of the people being gone that struck you a certain way, or you were maybe where you want to dismiss?
All totally normal, for sure.
Just normal missing people.
No, a lot of they're all really, really weird. Especially the planes like pinging, like they're in this one spot and then they're just gone. I really liked but I thought it was really interesting how the Mounties saw the plane vanish and then a puff of smoke.
Yeah.
What the hell was that?
I don't know. The plane one seems so weird to me. Although I guess the rugged terrain theory kind of explains it to me a little bit in terms of crashing and everything. But the fact that nobody's ever found, I guess it's because of the snow and everything. I don't know. I don't know where all these people are going or where they're trying to go.
Wild moose are eating them.
I guess. Moose gotta eat. Moose
are huge. They're really... I've been telling my students about this because we've been reading a little story about moose. And I'm like, they're 8 feet tall. They're huge.
If a deer is 400 pounds, I can only imagine how much a moose is.
A moose is 1,000, 900.
Man, they're just
big.
They're just curling weights.
Listen... They could curl us. They could curl me with their horns, which is saying a lot.
Would you ever want to ride a moose?
Yes, that'd be a love. That'd be my. Oh God, the naked lady on the horse. That'd be my moment.
Yeah, I want to ride a moose off into the warm glow of the northern lights.
Beautiful.
I think some of the theories, or not theories, some of the missing person cases seem like it could have just been an accident. But the people that just kind of up and miss, it does have a very true crime feel to it, where it's why did they leave? Where did they go? What led them to wanting to go anywhere?
Well, the cocoon guy makes sense.
That sounds like somebody that overestimated the wilderness.
Yeah.
Which theory resonates with you? Which one do you think is stupid? Which one do you think is believable?
I don't think any of them are stupid.
Or most believable.
I don't think dumb.
I don't think the Yeti is stupid. I don't think it's relevant to this conversation.
Yes, I agree with that. I don't think it is what it is. I don't think that's what's happening. But also, maybe in some cases it could be. But
don't go by number. Give me the topic.
Okay, all right. The one with the energy portals.
Energy vortex.
I really like that one a lot.
I do too. I really do. Even though I tried to experience it and I could not. It feels like it has a game plan. It's you want to understand why this stuff's happening? Let me lay the foundation for you. There's good vortexes and bad vortexes. This is what the bad vortex causes. And look how that easily explains every mystery surrounding Alaska.
But I have a question.
Yes.
So you said the good vortex in Sedona was just on this mountaintop?
There's areas. There's pockets.
But how big is this vortex in Alaska? Is it just pockets in Alaska?
That's what I'm wondering. I don't know, because the Alaska Triangle, I was joking,
huge, right?
It literally feels like Alaska. So maybe there's different pockets. I would argue there's a pocket near Anchorage.
Which is the biggest state in the United States.
The biggest city. Oh, wait, the biggest state. Yeah, okay, yeah. So you mean Alaska being the biggest. Yeah, I don't know, but it's just because if the triangle outlines the vortexes doesn't mean that it's full of vortexes. It just means that it's all within those boundaries.
Yeah.
But it's also arbitrary.
I wish we could have heard a story from the top city.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know why they even labeled it there. It just feels like, let's just say the whole thing, man. Yes. The Alaska Square, no.
They could have made the other one Fairpoint. Or
the Alaska Rhombus.
Is it Fairpoint?
I think it was Fairfax. Was it Fairfax? Hold on. Fairbanks.
Fairbanks.
Okay, let's come back to the vortexes.
Okay.
I know you have the love here, and I know that there's a huge Japanese experience. Alien still doesn't feel like it. I don't know, because now I'm thinking of the fourth kind, and it's like...
I want to hear more stories related to seeing aliens, to seeing ships.
Maybe this would be one to put a pin in for now. And,
Yeah.
And when we ever do, like, alien encounters in Alaska, maybe we'll think back on the triangle here and be like, let's revisit that. Because I thought about this recently, because when we were talking about Lechuza, and you were saying owls and how they relate to aliens, which then made me think of the movie, and it's like, oh yeah, Alaska, ooh, creepy.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like we could bring a lot back to Alaska with aliens, but not right here.
Yeah, this feels different. It feels more like, it feels disorienting to me. It feels like...
that's the energy about it. It's just kind of people getting lost and vanishing.
Yes. Black Pyramid.
I don't know anything about it, really. You just said it's there.
I think this is another one.
But could that relate to the negative energy portal?
It
Maybe
could.
That's causing
it could. They're saying there's immense energy coming from this. And if it's literally there, and it's twice the size of the Pyramid of Giza, it's huge, and it has to be, affecting Alaska the most.
Mm-hmm.
So potentially, I think this is one where I want to learn more about it too on its own separate episode and look back. But also, I guess if you're going to believe the energy vortex, I guess the Black Pyramid, if you believe it exists, should be able to believe, because a triangle is also, pyramid, triangle, the 3 points, it fits.
Are there any pictures online?
I don't think there's any concrete ones. I think there's ones that people have made to resemble. So when you do a website page about it or a blog, you can put it up there. Gotcha. But maybe not. Maybe there are some real ones I just didn't stumble upon. Okay, obviously there's not much to talk about in this because it's boring, but it could just be that it's just a rough climate.
Boo!
It is a rough climate. I don't know. I've never been there. I assume it is.
Yeah, I guess.
Like a plane crashing, avalanche makes sense. So the plane ones, I'm actually like, okay, that probably could happen with a plane. But all the other people, am I just supposed to believe that these people all wanted to leave and just happened to get lost and happened to trip into a huge skyscraper-sized crevice?
Well, I will say this. The reason the Butcher Baker serial killer, I think Robert Hansen was his name, the reason he was so prevalent for so long was because he utilized the natural roughness of Alaska's terrain.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something to that.
Also, and let me just rephrase this and make sure that I want to state this again. Yes, we talked about 8 people going missing. This is 16,000.
Is that yearly or just overall?
16,000 since 1988.
Okay.
They're saying between 500 and 2,000 per year.
That's too many.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's where aliens come back into the frame and say, wait a minute, okay, we're losing 2,000 people a year. I don't think that many. If you live in Alaska enough, I would hope after a while you're like, maybe I shouldn't go hiking alone here.
That's a
deal
with the aliens.
Maybe I wouldn't want to go hiking there. I don't know. But okay, so obviously climate holds weight, I think. It holds weight. I'm not saying it's most exciting. I'm not saying it's the answer, but it holds weight more so than some of the other ones. Simulation. What are your thoughts on the simulation?
Makes me uncomfortable. That makes me the most uncomfortable.
But it's but here's the interesting thing. If someone told you, and it wasn't their opinion, it was a fact. The Super Bowl, every TV's on it, you know what I mean? If it was a news press conference where every channel, no matter what channels you're watching, it goes to this news conference, and it's some scientists that no matter what side politically you're on, you agree with, and they were like, listen, the world is a simulation. With that knowledge, you might look at the world differently and your life differently, but technically, if we're already living in it, nothing would change because we've already, you know what I mean? It's it's still the same life. It's just now you're aware. It's ignorance is bliss, right?
Yeah.
If we're living in a simulation now, tomorrow would be no different than yesterday because you're already doing it. So what difference does it make if we're living an organic life versus a simulated life?
Makes me uncomfortable. That's the difference.
It's like the Matrix, I guess. You become self-aware, and then you start noticing inconsistencies and stuff. But if you don't think about it, literally your life stays exactly the same. That's not tying it to this theory. That's just my take on it as of this moment in time. But how do you feel about it, not in the real world, but in maybe the real world Alaska? How do you feel about the simulation theory and how we painted it and relating that to these 16,000 missing people and plane crashes and stuff in Alaska?
My question would be, why would that invisible wall be near Alaska? Wouldn't that be near somewhere like Siberia or the North Pole or the South Pole?
Maybe it's not a wall. Maybe you weren't I like that you brought up the space. Like, what if we're just getting so full as a planet that it's just overloading?
Like the RAM is just crashing.
Because notice they said since 1988, which obviously it's not like we've grown a lot since then.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe we just started hitting that 5 billion people in 1988, and obviously stuff. I mean, there's so many more dumps now, and our oceans are littered. So it's not just people that are overpopulating the world. Stuff is overpopulating the world. I don't know. It's interesting.
It is an interesting theory. It makes you think of like where we are.
It does. If you found out the world was a simulation, I know I just did the whole spiel about how nothing would really change because we've already. It's not somebody's saying you're going into a simulation. That's different. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's new terrain. But if someone said you were living in a simulation, it's like, well, I'm good at it because I've been doing it for about 30 years. You know what I mean? But still, like I know I said that was my spiel, but I would probably treat the world differently.
You would. You couldn't. You could not.
Yep. So I got two questions for you. One is the believability, but I'll frame it for you. But so before we get to your believability, which theory resonates the most with you?
In what sense? And I think it's true, or it freaks me out the most?
No. If you had to explain, if someone said, for $1 million, give me your best guess, which of these theories is the reason why people keep missing in Alaska?
Number 2, the energy vortex.
Why do you think of it as number 2 instead of what it is, just out of curiosity?
You numbered it, so I numbered it in my head.
Okay. You got little file cabinets in there.
I'm weird.
I agree. I think the most probable is the climate. I think the most interesting is the simulation, but I think the one that I'm buying the most is
the energy.
The energy vortex.
There's, of the examples you gave us, I guess is a small portion of the missing people, but how many people go missing and do strange things because they are all of a sudden overwhelmed with emotions that they haven't felt?
Or just that, even okay, it could be a pair, right? Like it doesn't have to be just one of these things. For instance, let's say it's not the vortex, and let's say the Black Pyramid is causing people to want to, well, I guess I'll frame it this way first. Vortex, right?
Yeah.
It's causing people depression and they want to leave, and therefore they leave, and then the climate takes them. So it could be the climate or the vortex. Let's say we cut the vortex and put in the pyramid. Let's say the pyramid, the Black Pyramid, is affecting them, making them leave, again, the climate. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be one or the other. It could be multiple of these at play. Aliens could still be there, even if they're not the reason for 16,000 people there.
I think they are there. I do. I don't think they're gone. I think that's definitely part of it.
So the way I want to frame the believability scale, which you already gave your answer, but I'm gonna let you actually say it confidently.
Okay.
I think unbelievable means it's all climate. It's just bad weather and avalanches and snow and cold and bitterness and crevices and glaciers. I think that's unbelievable. I think that's saying there's nothing supernatural or paranormal here, or unusual or bizarre. It's just the world. It's just Alaska. It's just smaller Antarctica. And believable is it's something supernatural or unusual.
Then I confidently say believable.
Yeah, I do as well. Now we could break this down in tiers, where it's like energy vortexes of this world, so it's like skeptical, where aliens are believable. But I don't want to do that.
They're going to parse hairs.
Nope, I'm going to go believable as well. I like the idea of the energy vortex. It's so spelled out. It's like, it's unusual, it's strange, it's something you can't see, but it has like guidelines. It's like, like swirling clockwise, positive. Downwards, swirling counterclockwise, negative. And then it's like, we know how atmosphere in the world affects us. So it's not hard to buy into the idea that this existing energy could be causing us this much distress.
Well, seasonal depression is a thing.
Yeah. And there's places in Alaska that don't see the sun for 2 months.
Yeah.
We're on the same page. I feel good about it. So that is our episode on the Alaska Triangle.
Ooh, that is a triangular episode.
Hefty. It's just like the Dyatlov Pass, which if I remember the time was pretty big too. Yeah. Longer for us. Man, we used to pump out 25-minute episodes. Get so much stuff done back then. Yeah. But this is fun. I really like the discussion. So that is our episode on the Alaska Triangle, which again was voted in on our Patreon by our patrons.
What did it lose to? Or what did it win against?
Let's see.
Not to put you on the spot.
There was, I think, the San Antonio donkey.
It's just all triangles.
Lady. I'll pull it up because I'm gonna answer this question. We just had to do some like voodoo magic to get our 19 minutes back.
Couple prayers.
Our entire discussion somehow was not showing up on our recording software, but we just did a couple things.
I cried a little bit.
And now we're good. So Alaska Triangle came in first, which is obviously why you're hearing it. And then second place was Waverly Hills Sanitarium. And then third place was the Donkey Lady.
I'm surprised Waverly didn't win.
Maybe another time. That was one that was suggested to us recently. So I hope you enjoyed it. There's a lot of stories, a lot of theories. I love the theories ones. I'm sure you all know this. If you've been listening long enough, you know I like those theory ones where it has a bunch of encounters, so to speak, experiences of missing people, which are obviously tragic. I'm not, that sucks, and it's a shame that it happened and people are missing. But when you have multiple theories like that you can kind of toss around, I love that stuff.
And if you like talking about theories like Tyler does, and if you want to talk to me and Tyler, we are starting something new. We are getting into the world of Discord. So if you want to join our server, it's just Believing the Bizarre. If you want to share it, bring a lot of people in, because it'd be really cool if we could build this community inside Discord. And big shout out to Jalen, because she is helping me understand. She's just guiding me through this whole process. And she's like, well, maybe you should do this. I'm like, yeah, that's a good idea. She's like, well, what about this and this? I'm like, you are a guru. Thank you so much. And I appreciate your help. And I'm excited to talk to all of you in the Discord.
See, you said the word server there, and I was just thinking, like, if I had to explain it, there's so many more words that have come out of my mouth before server, and they would have all been incorrect. So I'm going to be learning Discord. I'm probably not going to... Charlie will probably be in there more than I will.
Probably, but I'm still learning too.
Safest bet to hit me up is the Instagram DMs, but I'll give it a shot. You can look at my Ferret Allen profile picture, which is Jarrett Allen, but as a ferret.
Mine's Goku.
So yeah, that's out there. Check that out. Again, also, we haven't mentioned this in a little while, and one's going to be coming out soon. Might have already come out by the time this comes out. If you want to subscribe to our newsletter, it is absolutely free. It updates you every single month. Episodes we covered, merch dropping. Obviously, Discord is likely to be in there. Any news updates, and it's free. We don't spam you. It's just a good way to be caught up. So head to either our bio link on Instagram, or if you go to our website, believingthebizarre.com, scroll down, you can subscribe for free to our newsletter. But anyway, enough of all that. We hope you enjoyed this episode in the Alaska Triangle. Hope you had a good time. Hope you learned something. Energy vortexes, people. Sedona.
I definitely did.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for listening. As always, I'm Tyler.
And I'm Charlie.
And catch us next week on Believing the Bizarre,
a podcast as bizarre as you are. This episode's like the base paranormal flavor of ice cream with like true crime chunks.
Yeah, moose tracks.
Yeah,
moose tracks. It's like paranormal with the chunks of true crime, yes. Or it might be true crime with chunks of paranormal. We're not
I guess
sure.
It could be that too.
I don't think that was number 2.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. It was. Cut that, please. Save me the ridicule.